Jimmy Valiant. Um, I've often tried to remember exactly when the first time I met Jimmy was, and I honestly can't recall, but I know that I guess Jerry Jarrett brought him into the territory because Jerry was doing the booking then. He brought him in to work against me at the time, and Jimmy was just he was one of the coolest, most charismatic individuals that you ever meet in your life. I mean, he was not a great worker, not a great wrestler at all, but he just had a great look. I mean, he was a handsome Jimmy. He at that time he had a great physique. He had already, of course, done the Valiant brother thing in a stint in New York, and he came into Memphis as the boy from New York City with that music as his theme song, and he had the long blonde hair, the mustache, and all this sort of stuff, and he just he really took Memphis and that territory by storm. As I said, mainly because of his interview skills and his look. He was he was a passable wrestler. He could do everything he needed to do in the ring to get by, but what made him and put him way over the top was his look and his interviews. And always a fun guy to work with, always easy to work with. And then, oh gosh, then he went through Jimmy went through some phases where he fell in love with Big Mama. I can't even begin to tell you all of the different things the phases that Jerry Jarrett and I went through with Jimmy Valiant. He was so over in our territory that he left, and then we would try to get him desperately to come back, and we even wound up, and this is like still unheard of. I don't know if anybody's ever done this to this day. We went out and bought. I mean, he gave us all these conditions to get him to come back. We had to go out and buy Jimmy Valiant a house. we literally went around and shop and bought this guy a house, and he came back to Memphis and moved Big Mom in it. And we had to have all of the porcelain in the house had to be black. He wanted everything in the house was black. A black tub, black sink, black tile floors. It was like unbelievable. And so we bought Jimmy a house. And he came back, and he stayed in Memphis for about, maybe in that house for like a month or whatever. And then he just disappeared on us. Went to Atlanta, and so Jerry Jarrett and I were stuck with a house with all black interior. And I don't know how long it took us to try to sell that thing, but we eventually the only way we sold it was some sucker bought it because it had been Jimmy Valiant's house because it just looked horrible. But Jimmy went to Atlanta and was doing real well down there, and he ballooned up, got real big, and sort of, I thought then really started, I don't know, he almost became a caricature of himself, really kind of taking the shortcuts, but he was doing all it had to do to get over. Jimmy just had to shake his head, shake the ropes and that sort of thing, and play the music, do the legs, and that was the Boogie Woogie Man is what he became then. And then, of course, he had Big Mama, I think, as a valet, and of course that was his wife, and they had a child, and Jimmy was really happy at that time, and just lived. They actually named the kid Little Handsome Jr. and everything was going cool for Jimmy, and I think this is pretty accurate as to what happened but I think when his son was about 10 or 11 years old, as I said, he's living in Atlanta or the Carolinas or something, and they're perfectly happy, and all of a sudden there's a knock at this door, and Jimmy's wife, Big Mama, goes to the door, and there on the doorstep is a woman and about an 11-year-old kid, and she tells Jimmy's wife that this kid is Jimmy Valiant's son also. And so it was one of those deals where probably like a one-night fling or something, 11 years ago, handsome Jimmy had been with this woman. They did all the blood tests, and it came back pretty much positive that it was like 99 and 9.9, and I remember asking Jimmy, I said, what did it say? I mean, what did the test say? He said, brother, It said 99.999, and he said the nine just kept going until it went right off the page. And he said, that kid's mine. And so, man, his wife left him. Big Mama left him, took his son, and it just like that just crushed Handsome Jimmy. And he moved. He wound up, I think, moving to Virginia or something, up in the woods, and he became like this vegetarian and almost a recluse, and he was just like never the same. Everybody you see, he lost all this weight, and I think, I honestly think that he just almost grieved himself to death. But he still, he still would make shots and come in, but it just like his heart wasn't in it anymore. And I love Handsome Jimmy to this day, and we had some great matches and some great feuds, and he and I almost got us kicked out of the Mid-South Coliseum because we had a hair against hair match one time, and neither one of us got our heads shaved, and they had a riot and set seats on fire and broke windows out of the Coliseum, and Handsome Jimmy and I have done it all. He's just a great guy. I love him.